Child behavior support, overnight observation, excellent pay. Quiet environment, must follow structure precisely. Structure didn't scare me. Unemployment did. The interview wasn't in a house. It was in an office suite. Clean, minimal, glass walls. No decorations. A woman named Dr. Halpern conducted it. She didn't smile once. "You'll be staying 3 nights," she said. "You are not there to parent. You are not there to discipline. You are there to observe and respond only within guidelines." "What guidelines?" I asked. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were rules, not suggestions. Rules. Do not initiate conversation. Respond only when addressed. Never contradict the child. Never correct factual inaccuracies. Never challenge stated perceptions. Do not leave the house. Do not contact parents unless instructed. I frowned. What if she says something wrong? Dr. Halpern folded her hands. Then it is correct. I laughed a little, thinking it was a joke. She didn't. The house was modern, too clean, almost staged. The parents weren't there when I arrived. Only a house manager who unlocked the door and left immediately. "She's upstairs," he said. That was it, and goodbye. No explanation. I stepped inside. The air smelled like disinfectant. Not home. Clinical. At the top of the stairs stood a girl, 8 years old. Brown hair, plain gray dress. She wasn't shy. She was assessing me. "Your replacement for?" she said. My stomach tightened. "Replacement for what?" She ignored the question. "Your name," I told her. She nodded slowly. "Okay, you can come up. Not please, just permission." Her room was organized like a laboratory. Desk, bed, bookshelf, and toys. On the wall was a whiteboard with tally marks, dozens of them. "What are those?" I asked without thinking. She looked at me. "You initiated." I blinked. "Sorry, you're not supposed to ask first." My mouth closed immediately. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she walked to the whiteboard and added another tally mark. "What does that mean?" I asked before stopping myself again. Another tally. My pulse started climbing. "Those are violations," she said calmly. "You get 10. 10 what?" She tilted her head. "You'll see." That first evening, she tested me. Not like a child misbehaving, like a scientist pressing buttons. She would sit in silence for long stretches, then suddenly say something absurd. "The sky is green." I hesitated. If I corrected her, I'd violate the rules, so I said nothing. She waited. "You're supposed to confirm," she said. "Confirm? Okay," I said carefully. "The sky is green." She studied my face. "You don't believe it." Another tally mark. My chest tightened. "How can you tell?" "You used hesitation in your vocal pattern." She was 8. 8-year-old talks like that. Night 1, I didn't sleep. There were cameras in the corners of the living room. I hadn't noticed them at first. Small blacked out watching at 1:13 a.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. 1 message. Violation count. 4. My blood ran cold. They were watching in real time. The next message. Do not show visible anxiety. I became hyper-aware of my face, breathing, even blinking. This wasn't babysitting. This was surveillance. The second day, she escalated. "You're uncomfortable," she said at breakfast. I didn't respond. "You feel trapped." Silence. "You're thinking about leaving." I kept my face neutral. She smiled faintly. "That's 7. 7 violations? Or 7 correct responses?" I didn't know, and not knowing was worse. In the afternoon, she handed me a paper. "Read this out loud." It was a paragraph describing how caregivers often project their instability onto children. The language was psychological. Clinical. It painted me as emotionally unreliable. I'm not reading this, I said before thinking. Her eyes sharpened. That's 8. My heart slammed in my chest. What happens at 10? She stepped closer. You're replaced. With what? She didn't answer. At 9 p.m., the doorbell rang. I hadn't seen anyone enter or leave the property. She walked calmly to the door, opened it. A woman stood outside, young, nervous, holding a small bag, the same bag I brought on my first night. She's early? The girl said. The woman looked at me, confused. What's going on? The girl tilted her head. She failed. My stomach dropped. Failed what? This is my job, I said. The girl looked at me with something almost like pity. No, this is evaluation. The new woman stepped inside. The door shut behind her. I moved toward it instinctively, locked. From the outside, my phone buzzed again. Violation 9. Challenging structure. My hands started shaking. I couldn't stop them. The new woman looked between us. Is this some kind of test? The girl smiled. Yes. Then she turned to me. You can stay tonight. Cold, measured. But you're no longer primary. Primary what? They made us sit on opposite ends of the couch. The girl stood in front of us. Observation phase 2, she said softly. My phone buzzed. The new woman's phone buzzed at the same time. We looked at each other. Her eyes were wide. Mine probably were too. She whispered, Do you know what this is? I hesitated. Wrong move. My phone buzzed again. Violation 10. The girl's expression changed instantly. Flat, empty. Thank you, she said, for your participation. The lights went out, completely pitch black. The door upstairs opened and I heard footsteps. Not small ones. Adult. Multiple. I stood up immediately. Hands grabbed my arms from behind. Firm, professional. Not violent, just controlled. Please don't resist, a voice whispered near my ear. The girl's voice echoed from somewhere in the dark. Replacement 5 will observe better. I screamed. That was my final mistake. The grip tightened. A cloth pressed over my mouth. The last thing I heard before everything faded was her calm voice. Emotional instability confirmed. I woke up in a white room, chair, table, camera. Doctor Halpern sat across from me. You lasted longer than most, she said. My throat burned. What is this? Long-term caregiver conditioning program. For who? She smiled faintly. For her. My heart pounded. You're training her to manipulate people. No, she corrected gently. We're allowing her to refine her natural ability. Natural ability. She's 8. She's exceptional. The door opened. The girl stepped inside. Perfect posture. Blank face. She looked at me like I was a case study. Not a person. Replacement 6? She asked calmly. The doctor Halpern nodded. Yes, but we'll adjust screening criteria. The girl turned to leave, then paused. She looked back at me. You showed fear too early, she said. If you'd waited, you could have stayed. Stayed. Like that was a privilege. The door shut behind her, and I realized something worse than being replaced. This wasn't about babysitting. This wasn't about behavior. This was about building someone who could dismantle people without raising her voice. And they were practicing on us point one by one. I almost didn't take the job because it was too normal. Single mom. 9-year-old daughter. 3 evenings while she worked night shifts at the hospital. No strange rules. No high pay. No weird interview. Just ordinary. Her name was Elise. The mother, Dana, looked exhausted in the way only single parents do. Half their smile. Constant apology tone. She's very mature, Dana told me while grabbing her keys. She doesn't need much. Just make sure she eats. Homework's done. Bed at 9. Elise stood behind her, silent, watching. Not shy, not rude, just studying. You'll be fine, Dana said, squeezing my arm before leaving. The door shut, and the house exhaled. Elise didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. She sat on the floor with a sketchbook, drawing. I tried small talk. What are you drawing? She didn't look up. You, I laughed lightly. Already, I like to draw what's temporary. That sentence didn't land right. What do you mean? She finally looked up. I don't draw people who stay. Her drawing was unsettlingly accurate. The way my shoulders slouched slightly, the faint scar near my eyebrow, details most people don't notice immediately. You're observant? I said. I have to be, she replied. Why? She shrugged. So I know how to act. That stuck with me. How to act? She smiled faintly. So people like me. Dinner was quiet. She ate slowly, watching me between bites. You're nervous, she said casually. I'm not. She tilted her head. You scratch your thumb when you lie. I froze. That I was scratching my thumb. That I stopped immediately. She smiled. That's better. By the second night, something had shifted. Dana greeted me differently. Cooler. Less friendly? Did everything go okay? I asked. She said you raised your voice, Dana said, not looking at me. I didn't. Dana hesitated. She's very sensitive to tone. I never yelled. I'm not accusing you, she said quickly. But the warmth was gone. When she left, Elise was standing behind her again, watching, waiting. When the door closed, she said softly, You shouldn't contradict children. My stomach tightened. I didn't contradict you. You will. She went upstairs. That evening, she started asking strange questions. If someone tells a story about you and everyone believes it, is it true? No, I said. She smiled. What if they don't believe you? I didn't answer. She added quietly, My mom trusts me. It wasn't a threat. That IT was a fact. On night 3, I walked in and Dana wouldn't meet my eyes. Elise said you went through my bedroom. What? No, I didn't. She said you were looking for something. That's not true. Dana sighed. She doesn't lie. There it was, that absolute certainty parents sometimes have, the kind that blinds them. I would never. I just need honesty, Dana said firmly. That I felt something twist in my chest. I didn't do anything. From the hallway, Elise was listening. I could feel it. That night, Elise changed tactics. She was warmer, kinder, almost affectionate. Do you like working here? She asked while brushing her doll's hair. Of course. You won't, she said sweetly. I forced a smile. Why? Because my mom won't. My blood ran cold. You've been telling her things, she shrugged. I tell her how I feel. What have you told her? She leaned closer. That you watch me sleep. My heart slammed so hard I thought I'd faint. I've never. I know, she said calmly. But she doesn't. I realized then what she was doing. She wasn't accusing wildly. She was planting doubt. Small, believable, gradual. Night 4, Dana didn't invite me inside right away. She stood in the doorway. Elise says you asked about her father. I did, casually. She doesn't like talking about him. You didn't tell me that. Dana's jaw tightened. You should have known not to. How could I have known? But I was already on the defensive, already explaining, already shrinking. Elise appeared at the top of the stairs, watching the exchange. Her face was blank, but her eyes were satisfied. That night, she brought out a mirror, a large one from her room. She placed it on the living room floor. "Let's play a game," she said. "What kind of game?" "Mirror game." I didn't want to play, but saying no felt like losing. "How does it work?" "You copy me." Simple enough. She raised her hand and I raised mine. She tilted her head, I did the same. Then she stopped, but I didn't. I corrected quickly. She smiled. "You're delayed. It's just reaction time." "No," she said softly. "You're unsure." She stepped closer to the mirror. "So you check yourself before moving." That wasn't true. Was it? The next morning, Dana called me before my shift. "We need to talk." Her voice was tight. "Elise says you told her not to trust me." My vision blurred for a second. "I would never say that. She cried last night. That hit me hardest." Cried. Elise hadn't cried once in front of me. "She said you told her mothers can be replaced." I felt physically sick. "I didn't." Dana was silent, and silence is worse than yelling. "I don't know what's happening," she said finally, "but something feels wrong." I knew what she meant. I just wasn't sure who she meant it about. When I arrived that evening, Elise hugged her mother dramatically before she left. "Please come home early," she whispered loudly enough for me to hear. Dana looked at me over her shoulder. Concern? Suspicion? Fear? The door closed. Elise dropped the act immediately. "You're almost done," she said calmly. "What do you want from me?" She considered that. "I want to see how long it takes." "For what?" "For you to break." I stopped reacting after that, no defending myself, no arguing. Just quiet. But that's when she escalated. She started moving things. Dana's jewelry box slightly open, a drawer left pulled out, then telling her mom, "She was in your room again." Each time, I denied it. Each time, Dana's trust eroded further, until one night, Dana checked the hallway camera. There was footage of me standing outside her bedroom. I stared at the screen in disbelief. "I never went in." "But why were you there?" I couldn't answer, because I didn't remember standing there. Elise spoke softly from the couch. "You looked confused." The footage showed me lingering, staring at the door, like I was considering it. I don't remember doing that. But there it was, proof. Or something that looked like it. The final night, Dana didn't hug Elise goodbye. She barely looked at me. "This will be your last shift," she said flatly. Elise stood behind her, expressionless. After Dana left, I turned to her. "Why?" She thought about it carefully. "Because you're easy. Easy. You doubt yourself." She walked to the mirror still lying on the floor. "You check your reflection to see who you are." She looked at me through it. "And if I tell you who you are often enough?" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. When Dana came home early that night, she found Elise crying in the kitchen. Real tears this time. "I don't feel safe," she whispered. Dana didn't even look at me. "Get out." I tried to speak to defend myself one last time, but my voice sounded weak, uncertain. Even to me as I stepped outside, I glanced back through the window. Elise had stopped crying instantly. She was standing behind her mother, looking at me, smiling faintly, not victorious, not evil, just satisfied, like she'd completed a puzzle. A week later, I heard from a mutual contact that Dana had hired someone new. Elise had told her the new sitter felt stable. Stable. That word echoed in my head, because I wasn't sure I felt stable anymore. I kept replaying everything, wondering what I'd actually done, if I had stood outside that bedroom longer than I remembered, if I had said something careless, if I had somehow become what she described. That's the worst part. She didn't need to trap me in a basement. She didn't need cameras. She didn't need lies that were outrageous. She just nudged reality slightly, over and over, until even I wasn't sure of my own reflection. The job sounded temporary. 2 weeks. Live-in. Parents traveling overseas for an emergency. Their son, Adrian, was 10. Quiet, polite, homeschooled, very independent, his father said during the video call. He doesn't need much. His mother leaned closer to the camera. He just appreciates consistency. Consistency. I told them I could provide that. I wish I hadn't. The house was large but lived in. Framed photos, books, real warmth. Adrian opened the door when I arrived. "You're late," he said calmly. I checked my phone. I was 2 minutes early. "I don't think I am." He smiled faintly. "You will be." I didn't understand what that meant at the time. The first 3 days were normal, almost boring. He did schoolwork at the dining table, read quietly, ate what I cooked. No tantrums, no attitude. Just observant. He asked careful questions. "Do you have family nearby?" "No." "Do you talk to them often?" "Not as much as I should." He nodded thoughtfully. "You live alone?" It wasn't a question. "Yes." He tapped his pencil against the table. "That's good." "Why?" "Fewer witnesses." I laughed. He didn't. On day 4, he asked for a favor. Small. "Can you sign this for me?" It was a practice sheet from an online module. Parent signature required. "I'm not your parent. They won't know." "They might." He looked at me steadily. "They won't." I hesitated. It seemed harmless. I signed it. That was the first mistake. The next favor was smaller. "Can you tell my mom I finished chapter 8? "Did you?" "I will." That answer sat wrong. "Finish it first." He didn't argue. He just stared at me for a long moment, like recalculating. 2 nights later, the smoke alarm went off at 2:11 a.m. shrill. Violent. I ran into the hallway. Adrian was already standing there, calm. "There's no smoke," he said. I checked the kitchen. Nothing burning. I checked the oven. Off. He watched me the entire time. "It must be malfunctioning," I muttered. "It only sounds when there's danger," he said softly. "There isn't any." He tilted his head. "There will be." The following morning, I got a call from his mother. "Adrian said you've been stressed," she said gently. "What?" "He mentioned you've been sleeping through alarms." "I haven't." My heart started racing. "He said he had to wake you last night." "That's not true." She hesitated. "He sounded scared." Scared. The word landed heavily. I handled it immediately. I said, "I'm sure you did," she replied, but her tone had shifted. Slightly. That was all he needed. That afternoon, Adrian asked for another favor. "Can you move my dad's car into the garage?" "Why?" "So it doesn't get dusty." It was already in the driveway. Locked. I didn't have the keys. "They're in the drawer," he said casually. "How do you know that?" He smiled faintly. "Because I put them there." I stared at him. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." I didn't move the car. That night, his father called. We got an alert the car was accessed. My stomach dropped. I didn't touch it. He was quiet for a moment. "Adrian said you were looking for the keys." I felt something cold spread through my chest. "I wasn't." "You're sure?" The doubt in his voice was worse than anger. "Yes." He sighed softly. "Okay." But it didn't feel okay. On day 8, I found the kitchen knife missing. The large one. I searched drawers twice. Nothing. "Adrian," I called. He appeared in the doorway. Yes. Have you seen the chef's knife? He paused, then shrugged. No, he watched my face carefully. I checked the trash, the dishwasher. Nothing. An hour later, the police knocked on the door. A neighbor had reported someone in the backyard the night before, with something reflective in their hand. My pulse hammered in my ears. I was asleep, I told them. Adrian stood behind me, small, quiet. Were you? He asked softly. The officers glanced at him. What do you mean? One asked. Adrian hesitated. I thought I saw her outside. My vision tunneled. That's not true. He looked down. I might have been dreaming, but the damage was done. That night, I confronted him. Why are you doing this? He didn't look upset or angry. He looked curious. I'm not doing anything. You told them I was outside. I said I might have been wrong. That's not the point. He stepped closer. You signed my paper. My stomach dropped. That's not the same. It is. His voice stayed level. You broke a rule for me. That was harmless. He smiled faintly. So are these. On day 10, everything collapsed. His mother called. Panicked. Adrian says you got angry. I didn't. He said you threw something. I haven't thrown anything. He sounded terrified. Terrified again. That word .it was becoming a weapon. I want you to leave, she said finally. My heart pounded so hard I could barely think. Please, I said. You have to listen to me. I am listening. No, to me. Silence. Then, we're coming home early. I packed in a haze. Adrian watched from the doorway. You could have stayed, he said calmly. Why are you doing this? I asked again. This time, he answered. Because I wanted to see. See what? How long it takes before adults ruin themselves. That didn't make sense. I didn't ruin anything. He tilted his head. You signed. You argued. You panicked. You raised your voice just now. I hadn't realized I had. He continued softly. I just described what you were already capable of. My throat tightened. You lied. No, he said. I suggested. His parents arrived 3 hours later. Their faces were different, hardened, disappointed. His mother wouldn't meet my eyes. His father stood between us. Adrian told us everything. What everything? They didn't elaborate. They didn't need to. I was already on the defensive, already explaining, already sounding unstable. The police were called to document concerns. Nothing criminal, just record. A report with my name on it. Emotional volatility, inconsistent statements, possible boundary issues. Nothing provable, nothing dramatic, just enough. As I stepped outside with my bag, Adrian stood behind his parents, watching, not smiling, not gloating, just observing. Like I was the final page of a book he'd finished. I realized something then. He hadn't framed me for anything huge. No theft, no violence, no obvious crime. He'd done something worse. He'd created a pattern. Narrative. One small favor at a time. One planted doubt at a time. Until even I wasn't sure which moments were real. And once adults start doubting themselves, they fill in the gaps with fear. A week later, I found out no charges were filed, but agencies share notes. Not recommended for high-sensitivity households. That line followed me. Quiet, permanent. I sometimes wonder if he'll grow out of it, if it was just curiosity. But I don't think so. Because the last thing he said to me still echoes. As I walked to my car, he leaned forward slightly and whispered, "Thank you for the favor."